Okay, good morning, everybody. My name's Kyle Turner, and this is a forum on the 2025 budget. Contrary to what the pastor promised you, I don't have all the answers, but I can assure you that if you have a question that I can't answer today, I will get you an answer, either via email or I can hang out here after the meeting. So I have just a couple of slides with numbers on them. And but before we go to that, this is our church council, and ultimately they're responsible for the budget. And Christina Richmond is here. She's our president. And Frank Foster is the vice president. Andrea is going to be in the next slide. You can read the names of the other people on the council, but these people put in a lot of time and effort, and so they deserve our appreciation and recognition. The finance committee is, as you see it there, Andrea Kovalevsky is the treasurer. I know that we have a lot of hardworking volunteers at this church, but Andrea is one of the most diligent and dedicated ones that we have, and I really appreciate her effort. Right there with her are Karma Clark, who's our financial secretary, and Chris Marl, accounts payable specialist. Kyle Turner and Ned Gebert go to the meetings, but we don't do as much work as these others do. Okay, so we also have accounting crew. Countess Karen Clements is here. Donna Fisher, Roberta Foreman, Karen Spencer, and Jim Weisenbach, and Susan Jans. So thank you. In 2024, 268 households made charitable contributions, and we appreciate that. That keeps this place going. We're going to get to the 2025 operating budget, but first we're going to take a quick look at 2024. I'm going to go back and forth between two slides. I'm going to talk about income for 2024 and then expenses for 2024, and then I'll get to 2025. So here is the income, and as you can see on the top line there, the big driver here are tithes and offerings. The annual budget for 2024 predicted tithes and offerings to be $650,000, and they came in actually at $651,000. So we were pretty close on that one, and we're very pleased. Once again, thank you for your generosity. In addition to the tithes and offerings, we also get space support from the preschool, and we get rental income from our two rental houses, the beige and the blue one on the far side of the property over there. We get some income from the cell phone tower, and there's a little bit of income from interest income. We're not the only ones that uses this facility, so we get a little bit of facility usage income. And so you can see down there at the bottom, in 2024, budgeted for 747, and our actual is 748. So for 2024, as far as the income goes, we were pretty close. On the expense side, in 2024, there were some changes, as you probably remember. Our lead pastor retired, and that changed our budget a little bit. The other big change in the budget was the insurance premium went from somewhere around $18,000 up to something close to $60,000. So that was the big shocker for 2024. But again, thanks to your generosity, we came in pretty close to budget. Budgeted $747,000, almost $748,000, and we came in right at $748,000. So that's 2024, and I think we're in good shape. So going to 2025, our proposed budget on tithes and offerings, we're projecting a 2% increase in tithes and offerings. The preschool space support is bumped up just a little bit. The rental on the 2 houses remains essentially the same, as does the cell phone tower income. A little bit of a bump in facility usage, hopefully. So our total budgeted for 2025 is 762, and we'll get to the expense side of that here. So the expense side of the budget is mostly a personnel budget, and as you we have a full-time lead pastor, we have an office manager, we have a director of children, youth, and family, we have a custodian, and those are all full-time positions. And then in addition to that, we have some part-time positions. So we are looking at a 3% cost of living adjustment for all those positions. In addition to that, we're looking at a bump in the pay for the office manager. The rationale there, 2 reasons. 1, market, and 2, the office manager has taken on some additional responsibilities. Our new lead pastor is very grateful for our office manager's efforts, and she's very helpful. So we think we need to make an adjustment there. Another adjustment in the on the personnel side is that we've added an assistant to the pastor, and so that's an expense. And also we have provision in this budget to pay for a new associate pastor for part of the year. Now, this is basically a placeholder at this point because we haven't elected a call committee, and obviously the call committee hasn't done any work yet. So we don't know if we'll have anybody for 2025, but I think we need to build that into the budget now rather than have it a brand new big number in 2026. So that's in there. On the personnel side, the other change in this budget is for the property and grounds or building and grounds. Again, we're anticipating a large insurance premium. We have just shy of $70,000 budgeted. We don't know what that number is going to be. I think that policy comes up at the end of June, so we want to be prepared to cover that. We're also anticipating increase in utilities for the 2 rental houses and for the building that we're all standing or sitting in now. The city of Everett has promised an increase in the sewer and water rates, and we're not sure what's going to happen with gases, the natural gas bill, but it's unlikely it'll go down. Also in this budget is a one-time expense for a lawnmower. We're apparently changing the way the lawn gets mowed from having a service come in and do it for us to volunteer labor, and we're going to get a fancy new machine to do that, and everybody will be lined up to drive that fancy new machine. So we're looking forward to that.
You're gonna have driving testing.
The other, do we need a 4-wheel drive? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Another expense on the property and ground side is that, as you'll recall, we used to rent the Beige House to Familias Unidas, and they were a nonprofit organization. So they arranged with the county to not have to pay property taxes on that house. Well, the county never realized or got around to the fact that it was no longer a nonprofit occupying the house. So we're telling the county now that they need to tax us. And so we're anticipating that that back tax bill might run as high as $10,000. And we've built that into this. So I think that is all I have for changes. And I have a detailed budget here. If anyone wants to know an exact line item, I can get that for you. But that's basically where we're at. Anybody have questions? Kim?
Later this year.
Yes, I did.
Did you build in an approximate number of months, or did you just throw a dollar figure in there?
The approximate number of, we did build in an approximate number of months. It was, I think it was September till the end of the year. But there are a lot of variables. And so when it comes right down to it, yeah, we're just throwing a number at it right now. Jeff?
Is that number based on a full-time position or a part-time?
Part-time. Yep. Yes.
Suppose, or did they tell you why the insurance rates didn't they quadruple?
Yes, they did. Did they tell us why? No, but I think that it's probably fairly obvious, at least for us, because our claim on the basement was $40,000 or $45,000.
$100,000.
Oh, was it? Okay. Okay.
We had 3 strikes. We had 3 claims that cost us.
Okay, so I'm just thinking of one. All right.
And future companies did not want to touch us because of that.
For 3 years.
Or just
And it's a very unique situation, very unique policy.
And one of the challenges there is the preschool liability. Yes.
I will tell you that this is not a unique thing. The fact that we had a claim is unique to us, but not a unique to the other congregations. One congregation in this synod actually had to suspend services because they couldn't pay the new increased insurance. And so until they were able to get around to pay it, they had to basically close down their facility, not have any services or anything because of the liability cost. And they were a fairly large congregation and a well-financed congregation. It was not a little congregation. It was one of our bigger congregations.
More affluent neighborhood too.
Yeah, very affluent neighborhood. In fact, there's a Mormon statue looking down on their facility.
Okay, are there other questions?
I'm just thinking, having been part of the transition team, leading up to this vote next Sunday, there was a lot of deliberation and discussion about, Pastor Debs told us that she'll be here between 3 to 5 years. And we're in this time of transition and we're well into that period. By the time we get to calling an associate pastor, it might be at least halfway through that period. I'm just wondering if we call a part-time person, are we going to be looking for the right kind of person to stay with us long-term and take leadership, maybe even if they're that right person? We would need to do that. We would need to start looking for a person that's full-time, I think, to attract the kind of person that we would want to replace Pastor Deb in the long term. So the budget is forcing us to kind of be limited in our horizon. I'm just expressing some concern about that.
I hear you. Yeah,
I've been through some call processes at my former congregation. And it's not, you cannot accurately predict how long you're going to be in it. It's hard to
be prepared.
Yes.
Barry?
Just a comment, I've been a member here over 50 years. In 40 years, I was doing exactly what you're doing. And I can remember our having to make decisions like, are we gonna pay the minister or the water and sewer bill? The reason I bring that up is just to thank you and all the people who put this together and the kind of congregation we have here that steps up to meet this budget. So I commend you. I think we're on a good track. This congregation is flourishing, and that's good news for all of us.
Here, I agree.
Kyle, question.
Sure.
You budgeted half time for that associate or back down the road?
There's not enough money in this budget to do a halftime for a full year. We would have to take the assistant to the pastor position and put it together with what we budgeted for an associate pastor. And I think that would get us close to a halftime position, assuming that our candidate is, suitably qualified. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, my concern is limiting. Sure how we roll that full time. So that's part of what's bring growth into this congregation.
Okay, so there's an option for that. And that would be if you had a full-time, highly qualified, ready to go, then we would have to, we'd probably have to dig into endowment pretty deep and make it a transition with a defined timeline. Because the endowment won't support it long-term. Yes.
Associate pastor, are they
Yes.
synonymous?
No, an assistant to the pastor is somebody that is not rostered. So Heidi Francis is helping, but she's not a rostered ELCA pastor yet. She's working on it. An associate pastor would be a rostered pastor under the ELCA. So in that second designation, the rostered part of it means that we would go to the ELCA salary guidelines to come up with that number and negotiate it with the candidate. Dan?
I could really, on the pastor position, you're really talking about a 2026 issue.
Most,
And
yeah.
Isn't another option to maybe, for those of us that really would like to think that a full-time is the way to go, another option would be to try to have some type of special offering to bring in X amount of money for 2026.
Definitely. Yeah, that,
Time when Pastor Deb retires, then you're cutting back to this staffing level. You're really
Right.
trying to cover it for, who knows,
right.
Jeff, 2 to 4 years.
Well, we're not without resources, and a special offering might be the answer. We have several funds in the checking account, including columbarium that you know about, and it might be we'd have to raid those funds. Without having a specific person, proposal, and level of compensation, it's hard for me to stand here and tell you where the money's going to come from, but we do have some resources. Yes.
Operating method, so I don't know, I leave my trust in all of you who assess all this and think this will function. I'm curious, Pastor Deb is working with whoever this person is. Does the part-time person fill the need that we have? Is it not enough? Is it something that we will grow into something more, or how does that work?
We have an expert that can answer that question right here.
These are all good questions, all good questions. This is a conversation that I really welcome all the voices on, because it is a conversation that the council and the finance committee are going to engage in. The transition team, some of you have spoken, have recommended that we look at a full-time person because of that. So that recommendation goes to council as informed by finance. And before a call committee can go to work, we actually have to have a pretty good answer for that. The Synod requires us to know that. What happened to me? All right. The Synod requires us to be able to put that on documentation so that we know who we're going out for. And there are scenarios and there's variability in that. So you're asking Kyle to answer a question that council really hasn't answered or even brought up very fully yet. We will, and we recommend the voices. That said, I will say this. This has been a pastor and a half congregation for a long time. It's been decades since this, I think, if I'm right, since this congregation long-term afforded 2 full pastors. Am I correct? Those who know? Right. So I hear the desire for that, especially on a transition scale. I like the place. I don't want to go just yet, but but I know that is a desire for us to look at ways that could be done, and we will. They will. Madam President, you want to think further on that?
Speaking for the council, we would love to be able to respond on this. I think that there are so many different variables that we're juggling in terms of timing for the call, and and staffing and options that we have in terms of, we currently have a pastor and a half in the form of Heidi helping and then a lot of staff helping. So the variables are looking at all of the different staffing options to assist the pastor and on what time scale we want. And I guess I've heard some discomfort from the council on digging too deeply into endowment. If this is an operating staffing expense, we think it should largely covered in the operating budget, but we're open to creativity on temporary use of the endowment to get us over a bridge point. So we have a council meeting coming up this Tuesday, and these are issues we're talking about. Trying to think if there's anything else.
It's all based on the formula. So if we get you want to say a brand new, a mid-level or senior level pastor, you have to think about what that formula and that cost is going to be. So, what we want, what does the call committee want? That supports this congregation, you have to look at what that value is going to be, and the cost.
Yeah, timing matters.
Sorry.
You have to look at is also what kind of pastor you're looking for. What, in that, if we're probably not going to be looking at a brand new pastor. We're gonna do, or just out of seminary. I'm thinking a long time ago when they were young, but what we're thinking about is somebody, now, Pastor Deb was really good because she had a lot of experience outside that could be transferred to use in a large staff position or organizational type background. It's gonna be hard to find somebody that has that kind of thing. They back her up and if she wants, you know, we're gonna have to be a training ground for somebody too, if we're down the road for her retirement eventually in 20 years. But anyway, that, you know, so it's gonna be an interesting thing, looking for the right kind of person.
Yeah, I know one of the other considerations was, we had some time to get to know Pastor Deb before calling her as our lead pastor. And that's something I've heard the council really likes, basically getting to date someone before marrying them. It's really hard to, once you have a pastor, it's hard to remove them if things aren't working out well. So we do like the idea of dating, and we're also looking at options for how we can figure that out, but having the dating pool be the right pool is what we've heard from the transition committee.
I think Rick had a question.
So when we're looking at a rostered pastor, are there people that are actually looking for a part-time position, or are they all looking at full-time?
There are some who want part-time, and that might depend on a certain life circumstance. The bishop worked part-time at one point in her life. You have good people who work part-time. You hired me here, you called me here at 10 hours a week. So originally, that increased, but you have good people who will do that, but it is probably a smaller pool than those who are looking for full-time. That is true. There is, we have to have the conversation, but there is on the form, there is the ability to look for something between half. I mean, it really does depend on who you get. If we get someone who has 9 kids and they all want healthcare insurance, it's going to be different than if you get someone who doesn't need that much medical coverage, et cetera. So it does depend on the call committee. What we are looking to do first is get some time for the council and finance committee to talk and look at matters, to get a call committee elected. That's an elected group, and they have a lot of autonomy once elected, and then to let them have the work from the transition team, the MSP and that other. They take that forward. They work with the synod, and they can massage that and decide a little bit more about what is the fit. They can talk to anybody they want in the congregation. The council, me, they can go back and talk to the transition facilitator. They'll have a lot of help from the synod and support. But it is hard right now to say what that full process would look like. What is important is this is an important decision. And we want to do it slow and right, frankly, more than you want to do it slow and right. Because once you actually call a pastor, you kind of got them. And they know that. We have good people in all those committees. You've got really, really good leadership here. And you are a great call. And I'll say this again. This is a place that a pastor would want to come. Yeah. And a place that want to come and want to stay. I think we will have that choice also will be wide open. We're not looking just in this synod necessarily.
It's nationwide.
It's nationwide. So there's this is a good place. We will do well. We will call a good pastor. But you can pray about it all you want. That's very welcome.
How you didn't have all the answers. You need the help.
Switching back to the income side of the equation, have we recently raised our rental rates for our houses or reviewed what those are compared to the marketplace?
I would defer to our property manager on that one. Go ahead, Vic.
The rental properties themselves were updated with market 2 years ago. In the beige house, because Dane is there, we have negotiated a different deal with him versus what we could have gotten for them. So it's discounted a little bit, but otherwise we're in good shape.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. How many years now, Kyle?
Yeah,
Come on, tell us.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay,
Be able to put $600 for that over the budget.
absolutely. That's important. So we have a pastor. Would you like to pray us out of here?
I would, I wasn't a few minutes late, and I know that Kyle said thank you to many groups of people. And I'm sure he also said a general thank you, because this has been quite a year. A lot's happened, yeah. We lost a beloved pastor, but we also made that budget. We beat the goal on the outside at our Savior's campaign, and there's more to come on that. And you paid that dang insurance bill without dipping into savings. That's kind of impressive. So I am grateful for the people in the congregation every day. Pray for you every day. And I pray in thanksgiving for you every day. So give yourselves a little round of applause. Not only have you taken care of yourself, you took care of a lot of people. Almost $24,000 for the food drive, 478 families that you fed, and you feed 100 every 2 weeks down there for hot meals like tonight. So good things happening in the ministry here. God to take care of us. I'm sure of it. Let's pray. The Lord be with you.
Also with you.
God, we pray in thanksgiving that your work is done through committees and budgets and all the nitty-gritty of life. But keep us mindful that it is your leading and your guiding that drives your church here. I am grateful for this congregation. I am grateful for the joy. I am grateful for the sorrow. I am grateful that it is shared. Most of all, I'm grateful that we continue to pray, your will be done, your kingdom come. Amen.
Thank you.